Hi, I'm Linda. Welcome back. I finally finished a big 48 by 36. It is probably one of the largest canvases that I have done in a very, very long time. But it wasn't that much different. I used the same size brushes and maybe a little more paint, but not much. I put in some mountains up there, had to stand up a few times, but that's all right. And I got some evergreens, beautiful birch, and a pretty stream with a little bit of a waterfall going on. I think you're really gonna like painting this one. So get your paints out, get ready, so let's get started. Phthalo blue, Van Dyke brown, Indian red, sap green, yellow ochre, orange, and cad red light. And so now I'm gonna coat the whole canvas with liquid white. I'm going to go all over. Got a bigger jar there so I can put my brush in without getting it all over. So I'm just making little X strokes all the way across. And I'm using a 2-inch there, a bigger brush, so I can coat it nice and even. I'm going to go all the way down. Making sure I get it nice and coated evenly. And then I'm going to take a blue shop towel. I'm going to fold it a couple of times. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing, taking off all that extra white paint. Might have to do it a couple of times because that's a pretty big canvas there to work with. Okay, so I've dipped my 1 inch there into a little bit of phthalo blue, straight blue. And I'm doing some X strokes. I'm going to go across the whole top and probably about not quite halfway down, but I'm just going to keep brushing across. And you'll have some light and dark areas, but that's all right. And just keep putting the blue on. Mixing it up, smoothing it out. Because you've got the white under there, so there's going to be some light, dark areas, which is fine. Now I've got a little fan brush with some titanium white, and I'm doing some little circular motions. I'm going to create some clouds up there, and it doesn't matter the angle. I'm just kind of starting at the top there and working my way down. And then after I get my one line done, I'm taking a clean, dry 2-inch, and I always blot it off on a little bit of paper there. And I'm just smoothing that out, the bottom part out. Just little circles, buffing it out. And I added some more clouds, buffing those out. You can do it whatever angle you want with your clouds, but now I'm going into straight white and I'm going to highlight some of the tops of those uh, clouds, just the tops. So I want to bring some of that white out, and then I'm going to buff the bottom again underneath those. And you can make your sky any way you'd like. And just kind of randomly putting cloud shapes up there. Putting some more white on the tops. And accentuate, you know, where the dark areas are. Putting that extra little white in there helps bring them out. Just buffing the bottoms out, smoothing it out. I'm going into a little bit of phthalo blue just a little bit, and I'm gonna accentuate some of those creases in the clouds in the shadow areas. I want to bring some of that uh, lightness out. Put it underneath those white clouds. It helps with the balance, of the light and dark. And then I'll buff the bottoms of those out. Clean, dry fan brush. See how it helps bring those clouds forward? You can see the white ones a lot better. Gives it a nice balance. And just keep buffing, blending that in. Little circular motions. All right, so now I'm going to make my mountains now. So I'm going into a little bit of phthalo blue, a little bit of crimson, and just a touch of black. And that'll be my mountain color. So I've got a little 1-inch palette knife, and I'm going to carefully outline the tops of this big old mountain that's going to go all the way across. So I'm just concentrating on getting my top portion nice and crisp. I'm referring to an old picture that I have. So if you see me looking to the right, that's what I'm kind of mirroring it after an old one that I had. So I'm just carefully, they don't look like much now, but I'm carefully outlining the tops of those mountains. And so this other side on the right, that is going to be your highest point. It doesn't quite go all the way to the top, but it's a tall one, so make sure you're high enough. There's going to be some big trees that reach up there, and I want the mountains to be able to show off. So I'm just scraping, and now I'm taking a little 1-inch and I'm bringing some of that paint down off of the mountains, just dragging it down, trying to stay with the lines of the cliffs, which is kind of tough, but I'm working that paint downward because I won't need a lot of paint up there. Just shaping as I go and blending that in. Now I'm going to keep going across. And I'll be reshaping these mountains after a bit, but like I say, I just want to make the tips nice and crisp. And then blending that extra paint down. I'm going to have one more peak over here, and then I'm going to angle it into the side of the canvas. So now I'm just buffing it out, bringing some of that down. Now you'll see I've got some blue tape on the sides of my canvas. I took my canvas and I divided it three ways. So there's 3 different sections, so I can kind of gauge where my mountains start and where they end. And I've got the same color of the mountain. I did add a little more blue to that. I just wanted some darker area there. So I'm just angling that down, probably just below the halfway mark. Okay, I've smoothed the mountain out. Now I'm gonna go in with my palette knife. Got a little white, titanium white on there, and I'm just kind of put some white on the back side of that far mountain, and then the one that's in front of that, I've got a different angle of the cliffs. going downward. Just shaping some of the cliffs as I go. I've got a different type of palette knife now. It's kind of a triangular one. I thought I'd try it out. Works good for doing the tips. So here I am back with the other little 1 inch. Guess I'm a little more comfortable with that one. But I'm just putting some white, I guess there's snow tops up there. Just shaping out those mountain tops. There's a shadow side and a light side. The shadow side should be on the right of the cliffs, and then the light side will be on the left. Now I've got my palette knife. I'm putting in a darker area there for a valley. I've got some dark brown and black paint that I use for valleys. So now I'm taking a little brush. It's a number 4. It's by Simply Simons. It's a flat round. It's one of the ones that I've kept over the years that I use actually for acrylics. But you know what? It works really good for detail on the mountains here. I just tapping in the different little crevices, just dotting in and it works really good. I like using this one. Just tapping in, taking away some of those straight lines. And there's light and dark areas. I'm shaping out the angles of the cliffs and squiggly motions. And this side I'm bringing those straight down. And I also found another brush that I use. It's it's a number 2 round, and that one works really good too. So if you're wondering what kind of brushes I'm using, I also use the fan brush. It's whatever, you can makes what you want to see. It's just kind of trial and error. You just kind of go with it, make it up as you go. Still shaping my peaks and my valleys. And you may see a little bit of water runoff up there, like happy accidents. You don't know what's happening until you stand back and look at, oh, that looks pretty cool. So adding a little dark, adding a little light, a little light at the peaks coming down. Almost looks like there's water up there. But you can make yours any way you want. You can do a straight palette knife with a roll of white on, but I don't know why I just started doing it this way this time. Kind of tedious, but I think in the end it looks, realistic. Shaping my tops of the mountains there a little bit. Okay, so I'm going into a little bit of white. I'm gonna do a little bit of snow cap up there. Not much, just a little bit. Trying to follow the angles of the mountain and make it any way you want. Still adding some light areas in there. Little curves and straights. Okay, so now I'm going in. I've got a it's a Bob Ross foliage brush, round, and I tapped it into a little bit of titanium white, and I'm just gonna make a little foggy area, misty area underneath at the base of the mountain. Just tapping, and the more you tap, the lighter it gets. If you want to add a little more paint, that's fine. You just keep tapping. Okay, now I'm going into a little bit of the phthalo in brown, a little bit of alizarin. Got that dark color again. I'm going to make the background where the trees are there's going to be a big row of trees back there, and I'm making it just below the misty area. It doesn't have to be a totally straight line because that's just the way the landscape goes. But I am kind of going down and I'm sweeping back up. And I'm taking a little brush, 1 inch, and I'm just going to smooth that out a little bit. Take off some of that extra paint. But still, and then I'm lifting up at the top so you can see kind of where there's trees way in the distance. Just lifting up, blending that paint in, and lifting up a little bit. Smoothing that bottom part out, tapping my brush, get the paint off, and then just try to thin that out the best you can. And just bring it down a little bit, keeping the landscape angles the same. Now I'm taking my 2 inch and I'm tapping into a little bit of sap green with a touch of cad yellow. Going into the yellow, right over with the same paint on it. Don't have to clean it out, just tap it into the yellow and just make some nice little taps. Tapping right underneath that line of trees in the distance. I'm going to keep adding, tapping some more of the yellow in because it'll pick up on the green. Creating angles of the forest in the distance. That's kind of a valley there, so I'm swooping down and then gradually going up and trying to keep the lay of the land uh, going on there. I'm tapping in some more uh, sap green with a touch of yellow, a little, it's not a dark green, but it's kind of a medium green. Just filling that in, getting the base work in for some more yellow I'm going to be adding. Just go all the way to the right. The right is going to be full of trees, so I'm just tapping in the base work for some trees. Now I'm just tapping a little bit of white in that cad yellow. Be tapping my brush out there. Okay, let's try that again. A little bit of yellow, cad yellow and white, and a touch of that olive green. Actually, it's more white. That's another foggy area I'm putting in there. Forget the green. It's just a little bit of titanium white with just a touch of yellow, not much. I'm taking a clean dry brush and I'm gonna tap that way back there. Just tap and buff it out. Make it look kind of smoky. Now I'm going into the valley a little bit with my white. And just tap that till it looks misty. And the more you tap, the lighter it gets. Mistier it gets, I guess. Little circular motions. Okay, I'm tapping in some green on the side, a little bit of yellow ochre, base color for a bunch of trees that are going there. Now the halfway mark, just slightly below, is a grassy line there. My cabin, a cabin that I'm going to be putting in will be sitting there. I'm going to angle downward where the green is going to be right alongside of a river or stream. The stream is going to go back into that V and disappear. In the meantime, I'm tapping in some little trees in the back. I've got some olive green. It's actually sap green with a little bit of yellow ochre and cad yellow. Mixing it in with some darker green. I'm just tapping in some make-believe trees way in the back. These are distant trees. Can't see it now, but when we start putting in some regular trees, you'll be able to see them better. Back with the 2-inch and cad yellow and a touch of green. It's like um, a really light green. Because it's going to be coming lighter as you come forward. But I'm still going to put some lines of trees way in the distance. They're starting to bloom. It's probably the beginning of fall here. Got a little fan brush. I'm pushing in some green in the back, tapping, lifting up, creating a line of trees back there. Keeping some light, light, dark. I like to keep that in the distance so you can separate and actually see the rows, the separation of trees. Okay, I'm going into some yellow ochre and just a touch of the sap green, yellow, making some far distant trees in the back, way in the back. Just little taps with my 1-inch. Okay, you can see that I've etched my cabin in. And I just took probably the end of a small brush. I just kind of, it's not really scratches, but it's indentations in there where I can tell uh, the size and about what I want my cabin to look like. But I'm tapping in some bushes. along that, where the cabins start there, along the side, pushing in some bushes. Not going into the cabin area because that's going to be cabin colors, so you want to avoid that area. I'm lifting up some of that green there with a fan brush, pushing some of the green up. Going to be some tall trees back in there on that ridge. Taking my palette knife and I'm just making some points, little points of trees back there. Gonna continue going up the side with the fan brush and then pulling down with that green color. Now with the 2-inch, I'm tapping in some of that yellow green, pulling down. I'm just tapping and blending that in. Got a little more yellow on my brush. I'm going to make a bunch of trees right below that ridge. They're going to be more yellow. I guess there's no set way how to hold your brush. It's however you can get, that look that you want. I mean, you can tap straight across like that, or you can tap it straight up and down. Whatever works, however you can create those angles that you want. I'm trying to make it look like trees there. So I'm making some high points and low points. I'm going into Van Dyke Brown, starting to put in my, I guess, kind of the shoreline there that's going to be along that stream. It's kind of a dirt line, but I'm going to bring that over, go right underneath. Where the grassy area is there next to the cabin. Just go right across. I'm going to make my hill, making the angles of the landscape there that's going to drop down to the stream. So I'm just kind of angling my brush, pulling some of that up so I can see the angles of the landscape. Because it's going to be a hill and it's going to drop down to the water. And then as I come forward, it'll straighten out a little bit. But there is a bank there. Going to be a bank. Okay, I'm working on the other side. Tap some green in around the shore. Light green after that, and a little touch of the Van Dyke mixed with some yellow ochre. I'm just gonna brush into the bank and the shore, but I want it really dark on the bottom. There, I'm still tapping in some trees. I go all over on this canvas. I'm up there, I'm down there, because I have this idea in my head how I want the shadows and where I want the shadows to be. So now I'm jumping on the other side. Got some yellow ochre and Van Dyke brown. I'm angling the bottom of the bank. I got variation of colors in there. I've got the green mixed in and a little bit of ochre. Now I've got on a clean fan brush, I'm introducing a little bit of the phthalo blue, dark. I've even put a touch of uh, black in there. I just wanted it a dark, dark blue way in the distance. And as I come forward, you'll see it's blue. I'm bringing some more phthalo in there. And of course, I got the liquid white on the canvas, so it's going to be lighter in some areas, which is good. Keeping my angles of the water fairly straight across. I'm just putting some blue here and there. In the back there, it's going to be more green, kind of marshy. You know, the water is not moving as fast. And of course, the light is hitting in certain areas there too. Now this yellow ochre and yellow, a little touch of green. See, I'm making it look kind of swampy back there. But it'll all come out pretty good. But I'm blending that right into the bank on the left. Still creating where the actual shoreline is. Okay, I'm jumping up on the top. I've got some yellow, cad yellow and green. I'm going to start putting in some more indentations of bigger trees in the back. Lighter, light and dark, light and dark. Because I want to have this area done, because once I start on my big trees in the front, it's really hard to go back and correct those distant trees. So you want to make sure you get these in before you start working on the cabin and all that. You want to have that pretty well done. So I'm putting light and dark areas around the cabin. A lot of olive green there, a little darker. So you can dip your brush in some darker green and put it right up there in amongst the shadows. Here I'm tapping in some grassies that's going to be underneath that alongside of the cabin, and then lifting up a little bit. And you'll see I turn my brush kind of upside down and I kind of scrape downward. Sometimes that really makes some nice grasses too. Works really a lot better with a fan brush, but sometimes I can get them with that 2-inch too. I'm just angling downward to the shore. And then straightening everything out. I'm introducing a little darker color here and there. I've got a lot of green, light green areas. So you'll see I'll start putting in some darker browns in there. Keeping the angles of the lay of the land. I will be putting some nice rocks in there, which gives it a nice look too. I'm gonna work on the shoreline. I've got some Indian yellow, or Indian red, I should say, which is a unique color. It's a cross between red and a little bit of burnt sienna. In fact, you could use burnt sienna on this shoreline too. But Indian red is a beautiful color. All right, I'm going down and putting some blue, more blue, light blue, phthalo and white. Jumping back with my fan brush, I'm putting some light green and yellow. Just kind of tipping that Indian red a little bit, dragging some of that color into the water. Trying to keep my angles good, bringing down some of the color into the water. Same on the bottom. Gonna add some little green down there in the corner and a little bit of the, like I said, you can use burnt sienna too, rather than the Indian red, mixed with a little bit of yellow down in that corner. Keeping my lines fairly straight, and then the water lines coming down are going to be, back and forth. Bringing some blue in. Just smoothing it out. I tap my brush every time, smoothing it out. Softening it up. Add a little more green in the back. And there I did put a lot of green, didn't I? Well, I'm going to be softening that up big time. Blending that forward. A little more of the blue-gray down the middle. Got a fairly light area kind of in the center. I'm leaving that. Back into the sap green. And more darker, darker greens. Maybe even a touch of brown in there. I'm just putting some extra trees way in the back that are a little, more visible. And you can see that I added some Van Dyke brown along the shoreline there. Tapping in a little bit of detail. So now, yes, I am adding some Van Dyke brown going up that little knoll. So there's a light and dark. When I start putting more of the light yellow greens for grass, they'll really show up. I probably should have done this first, but that's all right. It's just a buildup of color, and it's not going to hurt anything. Keeping the angles of my banks. So I'm going to be putting rocks in there. Now I've got a little path by the cabin. It kind of arcs around. It's going to come down. I've got that little blue area you see kind of to my right there. That is going to be just a little bit of a rush, like a tiny, tiny waterfall, just a rushing water coming off that the side there. And there is another bank over there underneath, alongside the water. And there's going to be some big rocks in there, so don't be afraid to put some dark areas in there, because that, once we start highlighting, it'll be nice to see dark shadows in there. But gotta have shadows, otherwise it's just gonna look flat. Kind of etching out where my path is. I'm gonna go on the other side and add some banks over there, bringing the banks a little closer. It's not quite as wide as I had in the beginning. And putting some darkness down there in the corner. This Van Dyke brown, touch of black. It's going to be dark. Once I put the light grasses in there and bushes, everything's gonna come together. Now I've got a light area there going up. That's gonna be a big birch trees. I'm gonna have a few big ones coming in here pretty quick. Okay, I mix a little bit of gray, white, touch of black. And I've got to stand up for this one. It's gonna be my big old birch. It's gonna go all the way to the top. Being careful to keep it nice and straight. Birch trees usually are pretty straight. And I've got like a darker gray on one side, light gray on the other. So I'm going to be accenting with white and black. But I'm shaping my tree. I don't want it real skinny. It's going to be a fairly large tree. And then I'm putting some little black trees in the back of it. They're going to be quite tall too. I'll be adding some white accents to that. That's brown, Van Dyke brown. And with a touch of black in there, I want them to show. And that's just a tiny little flat brush I'm using. I'm going to add another tree alongside of the cabin. I want to put that in first before I put the cabin in. That one's going to be a really tall one too. That one's almost as high as that mountain peak up there. That's more of a evergreen. I've got a touch of burnt sienna in there in the trunk of that tree. It's not solid brown. It's a little bit of reddish in there too. I'm just keeping a nice straight line. Adding some more trees in the back. Bring it all the way down. And added a little highlight to the side of that tree too with some white. I'm going to put some tiny little birch trees along the grass line there. Some taller, some shorter. I'm going to put some little arms on them. And I'll be putting some foliage on that after a bit. But I wanted to get these in. Okay. Back to the big old birch. I'm putting some arms on that. Got a liner brush. Putting a bunch of arms on that tree. Okay, I'm going into a little bit of the dark Van Dyke with a touch of black. Gonna start etching in my cabin. Start at the roof line. Just pull down. I'm not real fussy right now with detail. I'm just trying to get the dark the wood in. It's gonna be a log cabin. But I'm just getting my outline in. Or I can change it if I want now, but I'm gonna leave it. I think it's about the right size. Scraping a little bit off. You don't need a lot of paint there. So I got my roof line in a little bit. I'm putting in tiny little chimney, just a little one. And that I'm using the small end of the palette knife for that. Okay, I've got a little white on a roll on my palette knife. one motion, start at the roof and just glide down, lift up. A little bit underneath that other side creates like, you can see that the roof is, there you can see it better. Got a roll of paint, I'm just tapping, and that paint will pick up some of the brown, but I want to keep my logs fairly straight. Just tapping. It's going to be lighter on the right side, darker on the left, because that's the shadow side. So I'll be adding some darker. Now there's the underneath there. Just tapping in a little dark. That's very dark, black and Van Dyke. Just creating my logs, just tapping and sliding along. Okay, I'm gonna have put a little more light in there. That would be white. A little bit of white in that brown makes more of a light brown and white. I'm gonna create a little window with the small side of my palette knife. Just using the edge. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm putting some more lines above it where the logs are. Now I'm going to take a liner brush dipped in a little bit of titanium and thinner, just a tiny bit. You don't want it sloppy wet. You just want it so it'll stick. And just dotting the ends of the logs that are shaping they're in the cabin. Just dotting little white. Isn't that neat? Looks like you've got a log cabin there. Put a little line along the window. And I'm going to put one more swipe on the roof, just a little bit, where the light reflection is hitting on that roof. Okay, I'm going to go into sap green and yellow. And now I can put my grassies in there. Just tapping here and there. Isn't that cool? And I'll start putting some grasses, leaving some of the brown. I'm tapping in some bushes there where there's going to be some foliage. I'm using the corner of my 2-inch there. You can use whatever fan brush or whatever you want. Whatever works. Whatever helps make brush and leaves and bushes. I know I have some of my favorite brushes that I like to use. I'm sure you do too. So now I'm going to straight yellow and white on a fan brush. I'm going to tap underneath. So I got some flowers going on over there by that cabin. Just something. Yeah. It's the light rays are coming down more in the center there. So it'll be a little lighter yellows. Gonna go along the path. I'm gonna put a little bit of foliage and grassies on the other side, not much. Little area there. I'm gonna be putting in a big tree there in a little bit. A couple of them actually. And some darker greens you can add. If it's too much one color, you can give it some dimension and shadows. Okay, so now I'm perfecting my shoreline a little bit. I'm gonna have some big rocks in there, bringing that down into the water just a little bit more with some um, dark browns, Van Dyke Little Black, and just touching some of those areas in there. It doesn't just kind of bumpy looking, it looks like there's grass is growing in between. All right, so now I'm going into I've got to start uh, creating a better path. I've got a roll of, it's white, a little touch of yellow, and I'm going to just gently shape that path, curve it around so it kind of meets up with that little water area there. So I'm going to put some steps down there. Tapping in a little brown areas along the path. And adding some more trees back there. Just lifting up. I'm using a little liner brush for those. Okay, I've got some browns. The greens. I'm going to tap some of that green in there. Add a little something there along the birch tree. Going into brown. I'm just kind of jumping all over the place, but I want to make sure I have the shadow areas in, and then adding my greens. Keeping the angles, it's a slope down in to the water. Okay, that one tree there, I decided I'm going to bring that down, the trunk down farther. I want it closer. Yeah, it's not level or in line with the cabin. It's actually this way. See how that makes a difference? That's nice. I like that. And I'm going to put a tree right alongside and in front of that corner of the cabin. Got my hand in the way, it's kind of hard to see. But I'm putting arms on the trees back there. See, I put that tree, it's another birch. I put it just in front of the cabin, not hiding the corner. And then on the other side, coming forward, there's going to be another big evergreen. And that's going to go almost to the top too. And that's right in front of, just going to miss the cabin. It's right alongside, way in front, but I'm not covering the cabin up at all. See? Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to make some little arms on that one. Using a nice liner brush, putting in a little bit of the burnt sienna and tipping some of those branches with white. Probably won't see a lot of that, but it's nice to have it in. So now I'm with my number 4 fan brush. I've got some dark green, and that's a little bit of blue and sap green. I'm making it pretty dark. Dark green, blue green. So I'm just kind of tapping in some branches. They don't have to be real super big. At the bottom, I'm leaving fairly open. I'm not going all the way down. But there are some trees behind that. I'm kind of put some branches on those too. And then I'll highlight those branches with a little bit of light green. Now the birch, I've got my round brush, and I went into some yellow and a little bit of white. I'm just tapping real light, putting some birch branches on there. Flowers, I guess they're leaves. And again, I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom to cover the cabin. That's a pretty large tree there. Okay, I've got the dark green again. And I've got a evergreen in the back side of that cabin. I probably should have done that before I put the cabin in, but once I got away with it this time. And back into the yellow and white, creating some leaves way in the distance on those distant birches. Just little taps of white and yellow. Okay, same with the dark green again. I've got another evergreen, smaller. It's just behind that birch. So I'm careful not to go into the front of this birch tree. Leaning a little bit. All right. Ready to do this evergreen in front. Start at the top. That one is pretty big. It is almost to the top. It's a little higher than that peak. So just little light touches with the corner of the fan brush, kind of rocking it back and forth and reloading and just tapping. And it's a little bit harder as you go down. It's not going to be a real big, wide evergreen. It's more tall than anything. And I'll use leave some of those open areas so you can see parts of the misty area and we're not going to cover all that up. And again, I'm not going to go all the way down with these branches. I'm just going to go probably just by the roof of that cabin. Back into the kind of a lime green. I'm going to highlight some of these branches a little bit. Just tap here and there. Make some pop, you can see them a lot better when you add a little bit of a highlight. Gives it a more realistic look. Okay, so now I'm going back into white. And I'm going to start working on my birch tree. So I've got a fan brush, I believe it's a number 4. And I'm just kind of pulling sideways right across. Real gentle little strokes. Just going to work my way up. Just working on getting that birch to look like a birch. Leaving some gray areas. So I'll be adding some black little areas in there. I've got a fan brush in black, dipped in black, and I'm just tapping the base of that birch, because the birch usually are darker at the bottom, and then as you come up, there's little, oh, there's no set design. It's just kind of like here and there. And after a while, you can get up, stand back, and if you have too many of the dark, just just take your fan brush and put a little white, some white areas over it, and it'll even itself out. So I found that I dotted it a little too much. So I went back and kind of corrected some of those dark areas. So I wanted it to look fairly realistic. And I also dotted the back birch, those tall ones in the back. Kind of give those a little swipe with the white and touches here and there of the black. Because those are the real young birch that are. And adding some arms. And those are actually, the one is really quite tall. I'll have some pretty leaves on that, both of those trees. And adding some arms here with black, making them stand out a little more. Birch isn't that hard to paint, actually, it's kind of fun. And I'm using my liner brush. I like to kind of start out flat, upside down, and then I kind of curl my finger, curl it upward, and I get a nice point doing that. See? That works out pretty good. And you can tip those a little bit with white too. But like I said, I'm going to be putting some pretty leaves on those. So and I put little twigs and things down at the bottom, the base. A lot of little things growing back there. I mean, you can get crazy putting all this extra stuff in there, but it does add. It looks nice in the end. You stand back and it all comes together. All right, so I'm continuing to bring those trunks down a little bit. There, see? Yeah, in the back. Alongside. Just adding more twigs and little tiny little lines for branches way in the distance. Okay. All right, I've got a little bit of my Van Dyke. Of this brush now, I've got some green going on there. I'm just extending some of that color out into the stream, adding a little light yellow onto that yellow ochre. And just blending into the shore. Adding some more yellow down here, down in the right corner. Putting some yellow reflections from those back trees in the water because they are a little bit visible there. So I'm just tapping in some yellow and then going across a little bit, blending. Putting in some yellow there. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with that corner. Just kind of ad-libbing. Putting some blue down in the water. Blue and white. Blending. Okay. I've got a short little round brush. And it's at number 4, Simple Simons. It's the one I had for years. And I'm making little rocks, little boulders that are sticking up just here and there. Just dotting some of those wherever you think. Otherwise, it looks too flat. You got to have something going on there. This is the woods, your way, in the backwoods there. You want to have lots of rocks in there. No lawnmower going in this place. Maybe a weed eater, but no, just all natural. Adding rocks. Yep. Deciding where I want to put some rocks. I'll put one there by the big old evergreen. I know I'm looking at a picture, but I'm changing a lot too. I'm just kind of going what I feel like doing, it's just original. Adding some big boulders in there. Because they say artists' eyes see things differently, and I think we do. We do see things differently. I'm highlighting some of the bigger stones there with some white and a touch of yellow. Putting some stones in the water. Adding a little highlight there. Just tipping. I've got a little white on my palette knife. I'm just tipping those a little bit. Putting a big old boulder in the water. Putting some highlights there. A little bit of yellow ochre on top and white. Putting some little stones in that little cove area, the area there, just and highlighting. Putting a big old stone over there in the bottom corner. That kind of helps that area there a little bit. Needed something there. I'm putting a big old boulder there, the center. Highlighting a little bit. It takes practice with the palette knife. It really does. Taken me years. It's all in the wrist. Your hand is facing canvas. It's in your wrist, I guess. Okay, I'm tapping into some yellow and light green. I'm gonna make some little bushies and things going on there by the birch tree. Now I've got my little 1 inch. I've dipped it in some darker green, blue green, kind of like what I use for the evergreens. And I'm tapping in a bush there along the bank. I'm gonna come up a little bit higher, just tapping the corner, tapping the corner of my little brush. See how it makes those pretty little leaves? All right, I'm gonna put some water lines in the water. And if you mess up, you can take a fan brush and smooth it out there a little bit. Keep going, a little roll on the palette knife. And you got your palm toward the canvas. I'm going to use the small end of the knife there for little tight areas. That works out pretty good. Boy, that really makes everything kind of come together, doesn't it? You can see the water pushing up against the bank in and around those rocks. It's so easy to do, really. Just takes a lot of practice. And I wipe off every time on paper towel so I don't pick up some of that other color. I want to make sure I've got a nice um, wake of water there, nice and white, going along the side of that big rock. I couldn't reach the palette knife with uh, there below that big rock, so I'm just using a liner brush. I'm just kind of squiggling back and forth, going along underneath that big boulder. All right, now I've got some white going on top of that blue, a little water runoff there on the side. Just kind of squiggling a little bit water in there. Doesn't have to be much. Use my fan brush there. I'm going to load it with some white. And I'm going to show you how to make a tiny little waterfall. Just a little bit. See, just pull down, touch and pull down. See? Touch and pull down. Just ever so light. Now we got the other one coming. I got a smaller fan brush. In one stroke. Just kind of squiggle in. Squiggle means see? And then just pull all the way down. One stroke. And if you're lucky, you might get a second pass. And then you're good. Take the brush and just kind of push upward at the base of that. And you've got some little bubbles, little water movement under that. Bring it out into the water. Don't need a lot, but you've got to have little lines under there. Gives it a realistic feel. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, I'm going into dark color. That dark green, blue green, and I'm going to have another bush under that, by that rock there. I just pressing. I got some more areas that I'm gonna put some bushes in, capping real light. Yeah, making that brush show me what it's got. Got some pretty little angles and alongside of the water there. Okay, now I've got some yellow ochre and white, touch of yellow. Made some rocks that are coming down, flat rocks. Now I'm just taking the fan brush, putting some foliage in, grassies. This one I got the round brush. Actually, it's a 1 inch, and I'm doing some light highlight. I'm highlighting those bushes. That is with a little bit of yellow and white. Highlighting. Just putting some flowers, some highlighting those bushes. Isn't that pretty? Putting some yellow down in the bottom. Okay, I'm going into Van Dyke Brown. Touch of black. I'm going to make some gnarly little branches coming out at the base of that birch tree. Fairly dark brown. You got to be able to see it. But yeah, I just throwing that in there. Give it some, something more to look at. They're fun to do. Doing the last minute detail work. You can add little grassies and, different shades of grass, light and dark and yellow, and just put them wherever you think. Little branches, sticks. There's some more grassies down by the water. Can really make those long and nice. That's a nice, thin, very thin uh, script brush. Okay, so now I'm going to go and put some leaves on top of that birch. I don't want too many. I started out with the darker green, kind of like the evergreen color, just dotting carefully. I just don't want to overdo these leaves because you can get too many and then it looks kind of dumb. It's hard to correct. It's hard to wipe those off. So you want to make sure you just don't put too many dark ones. And I'm going to do some yellow ochre, yellow with a touch of light red. And it's a beginning of fall, so they are going to have some color in those leaves. So I'm taking my script brush and I'm putting some little arms in there to help show where the branches are. Ever so light, not very big, but just a little bit. I see a finished painting. Oh boy, I really love doing this one, and I hope you do too. So until next time, happy painting and God bless.